So 2013, you guys put out your sophomore album, White Paint, three singles: Pick Me Up, So It Goes, Desire 126. I have a picture I want to share with you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we'll see if this,
Science.
so let me know if you can see this. So I am in the music video for Desire
Uh-huh.
126. So you can see here in the crowd, I got a little yellow
Okay, yeah.
arrow, and my same backwards black hat is on there. And then at the bottom, you can see I'm very dark in the shadows. But I was at that music video shoot. It was cool. I think you played a concert, and then we focus on that one song to make the music video. So where did the idea for that music video, Desire as a drug and getting Dave Foley back, where did that all come from? I thought it was a great video. I'm also heavily biased because I'm in there. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Geez, I mean, it might have been our idea. It might have been the director. That was a period of time. There have been really brief, intense periods of my life where all I was doing was playing drums for a living, quote unquote. And that was a period of my life where we played a ton of shows that year. And it's all just kind of like I'd have to do some research, as weird as it sounds, about my own life to figure out the answer to anything about 2013 and 14, because it was just so absurdly busy and all over the place. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, you wake up in the middle of the night and go, where am I? Oh yeah, my apartment. Okay. Because you're really not sure, where you even are, because you've just been all over the place so much. But I think the idea, to have Dave be back involved in what we were doing was always kind of there. And that largely was because he's such a good hang. I mean, I can't picture, the nights out that we'd have. I can't picture nights that I've laughed so much. And it's like, oh, okay, like a lot of people who work in comedy, you clearly just thrive on making people laugh. This isn't just your profession. You also just, like, it fuels you. And yeah, I think that video came out, and again, we kind of just said like, okay, cool. And then just got back to the grind.
yeah, is the song "So It Goes" the most fun Hollerado song to play live with? The drum intro, the blistering tempo. There's some other cool drum work. When you look down at your set list at a concert and you see that song coming up, does that get you more excited than any of the other songs?
It was really fun to play. One of my favorite things about that song is this is really, what you're not supposed to do. Showing people how the sausage is made, oh, no, don't learn how the
The
sausage is
magician
made.
shows its
Yeah.
tricks. Yeah.
So there were songs that I would play to a click live. So we're playing to a metronome. So the tempo, whatever I do, even if a fill speeds up or a little bit, or one of the guitar parts speeds up or slows down a little bit, the overall tempo is going on, because in my ear, there's something going click, so a metronome, a click, whatever you want to call it. That was one song that I would play to a metronome for a period of time. And then I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a sound check, maybe it was rehearsal, that we didn't use the metronome. I didn't have that sort of guide. And we all kind of agreed, oh, that song actually works better. There was a handful of the songs that, even though the recordings were done to a metronome, for the live version of it, if it were to speed up and then maybe slow down in the bridge and then speed back up in the next chorus or whatever, that actually worked better than it being more or less the same tempo. And So It Goes was one. I think my memory is Menno being like, man, that actually feels better when we don't have the metronome involved. And me feeling really positive about that, because it just felt more like authentically playing music, And okay, for recordings, unless you're going to do everything live off the floor, you probably want to record to a metronome, right? It makes overdubbing way easier. It makes changing things in post a lot easier. It makes fixing things a lot easier. But live music, there's a time and a place for it to be very polished. There's a time and a place for musicians to use backing tracks and have a ton of extra, you know, session musicians playing with them. And there's also a time and a place for just like 3 or 4 people playing without the aid of any of that stuff. No metronome, no extras. And So It Goes was always really fun because it was one of those where it almost just, and also it was, if I'm not mistaken, man, oh man, it's amazing that I can't remember this, but if I'm not mistaken, it was always later in the set. So it always kind of felt like by the time we got to that song, it was like, okay, we're kind of, everyone's sort of loosening up, and it just sort of feels like you're able to have fun, you know? So, and I mean, obviously it's about such a serious, it's such a fun sounding, fast sounding thing that is about such a serious topic, right? About Menno's grandfather being basically his life being spared in a Nazi death camp by this Nazi officer who was sparing people's lives, even though he wasn't supposed to be doing that in terms of what his job dictated. And then Menno's grandfather going back to the Nuremberg trials and saying, this man spared my life, you should spare his. And the Nuremberg jury, is that what the Nuremberg trials had? The Nuremberg jury? I don't know. Them saying, okay, you know, however it went down, them saying, yeah, his life should be spared. So obviously the fact that it kind of has this serious sort of historical truth and emotional truth to it, added to how fun it was, right?
Yeah, that story was told through the music video.
Yeah.
And it resonated with a lot of people. So I guess for our listeners, if you haven't seen the video, if you haven't heard that story, go check it out. So Hollerado, So It Goes on YouTube. One thing, so there's a bunch of things that stand out when I think of Hollerado. So to me, what stands out is a band that has a lot of fun, a band that makes very creative and memorable music videos. I think of really catchy one-note guitar riffs, some delicious bass lines, some really funky, catchy drum parts. But one of the main things that stands out is the harmony. So there's a lot of harmonies. There's a lot of hooks with multiple vocalists. How much of an asset to the band was it to have 4 people that could sing and not just one?
I mean, it's so funny because I don't think we ever sort of thought that we needed to do that or that it would even make everything better. It just sort of felt like everybody wanted to get in on the fun, you know? It sort of felt, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's really, really hard to remember, but from the get-go, I would have a microphone on stage, which some drummers do, some drummers don't.
Hey, who put this microphone here? I guess I'm supposed to sing into it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a big part of that too was Menno is, in my opinion, a grade A stage show banterer. And it was one of the funnest things about being in the band is that you never knew where that exactly was going to go, but he'd have stories he'd tell and he'd interact with the audience. And also we'd kind of like rib on each other, and we'd sort of sometimes even just like talk about stuff. It was almost like in between songs was sometimes like its own little mini podcast. And I don't know, it just sort of, it never felt like we were trying to exploit the power of harmony. It more just felt like, oh, it's more fun if more people have a microphone. And again, it comes back to that idea of it being this really all in sort of community, right? Where it's a band with a lead singer and a band leader, yet at the same time, it's sort of this group of hooligans that all just sort of do dumb jokes between songs, right? I don't know. It's so many things. Maybe we must have had conversations about what we were going to do, but it really, in hindsight, it just feels like we just did what made the most sense.
I have some kind words sent in here from another musician. So this is Brendan McMillan from My Darkest Days. So these guys had a gold selling single, like a huge single in the US with Porn Star Dancing. It had Chad Kroeger on it. It had Zach Wilde on it. It had Ludacris on it. So these guys were huge. And then the singer from My Darkest Days has now been the singer for 3 Days Grace for years. So
Okay, yeah.
so Brendan says Jake is a killer player and an even better guy. It's always a pleasure to play with him. So your band's back when My Darkest Days used to play. We play the biggest show we've ever played was at the X in Ottawa, where we were opening for My Darkest Days. So that's a little bit of history with that band, and I'm sure you guys played with them while they were still active.
Definitely, yeah. Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, which was a Wednesday. So in 2015, you guys release 111 songs. So this is an album, and I guess on the album you put maybe the best or your favorite of those 111, because a physical CD can only fit about 80 minutes and 111 songs would be multiple CDs. But can you share, it's a kind of a funny story how this came to be. You were actually forced to write over 100 songs for fans. Can you share why? And did you make a grave mistake having that have to happen?
All right. Okay. So I'm going to preface all this by I'm looking on, I have like Tidal, like not Spotify, but Tidal, mostly because I'm worried that Jay-Z is going broke. And so I want to make sure that
his one Billy,
right?
he might lose it all in one fell swoop.
So I'm opening Tidal because there is an artist now named Mizchick, and I'm opening it because I want to make sure I get the spelling completely correct. It is spelled Mizczzyk. Now, this artist, Mizchick, is actually one of our best friends in the world, Niles Mizchick. Niles was the producer that made 111 songs with us. And really, he is a big part of this story. When we put out the album White Paint, we had what was a really primitive version of sort of like a Patreon. And it was only like bundles that were like, hey, if you pay $20, you get the CD or whatever, you get the record. If you pay $30, you get the CD and the record. If you
a t-shirt and concert ticket.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's like a really primitive version of what became that sort of crowdsourcing type stuff. Right. And we had already recorded the album. So we got the whole thing ass backwards from the jump. And one of the things was the super mega custom bundle or whatever it was called. And you got the CD, the t-shirt, the record, you know, whatever else. And the final ultimate thing was we would record a custom song for you. Now, we got started, I guess 111 people bought this super custom mega bundle, whatever it was called. We got started recording these custom songs with them, and we were doing like, put the iPhone in the corner of the room and press record on the voice memo thing, and everybody start playing, and we'll improvise some lyrics or whatever, and we were going to bang these out in a month, right? Or a week or whatever. We were going to get through them, boom, send off MP3s to 111 people. Bob's your uncle, right? But we got started and we had such a fun time, and we suckered in, who's to say we paid him, but we roped in our friend Niles Mizchick, and to the extent where he had to quit his job working at an audio engineering store. He worked at Moog Audio on Queen Street. He had to quit that because he was like, I'm too busy doing this. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember what we paid him, but it was enough for him to like live a subsistence living like the rest of us were. And we basically holed up in a studio for a year, and we only left it to play shows, really. Like there were 8-hour days, there were 6-hour days, there were 12-hour days. We would do that 3, 4, 5 days a week, and we'd go out and play 2, 3, 4 shows in a week. And at some point in that year, we must have gone on tour and had little breaks, but we were in the studio, 100 plus days that year. We were out on the road 100 plus days that year, and we all lost our minds basically. But really, I mean, from that period, I can't remember. Oh, I got to plug my computer in 1 second. It's going to die.
Yeah, no problem. This is the beauty of no editing. This is real life, Got to charge those electronics. We got to plug them in. At least we have some cool segue music, right?
All right, and we're back. Yeah, I just had like the little thing. It's funny, I brought the charger into this room. This is my little office here. I brought the charger in, brought the laptop in, never connected the charger to the wall, never connected the charger to the computer. So I missed 1 to 2 vital steps. Where was I? Yeah. So out of necessity, we had promised these people 111 songs rather than just doing iPhone demos. We hired our friend Niles Mischik, who is MISZCZYK, if I'm getting that right, on Tidal, Spotify, all streaming sources. And we spent a year making these 111 songs and went completely crazy in the process.
That's insane.
Yeah.
The follow up 2017, you put out Born Yesterday, 3 singles. Born Yesterday, I Got You, Eloise. Around that time, you ended up touring in the UK a bit with Sum 41. What was that experience like? And were you a fan of the band before that? I remember when Sum 41 first came out, and In Too Deep and all those songs, Fat Lip. I was a huge fan as a teenager. What was that like? Those guys are still playing and still going strong. They're on tour with
Yeah.
Simple Plan right now, playing
Yeah.
huge arenas.
So that was some of the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. And it was just a whirlwind. The cool thing about Europe is that you can go from city to city really quickly. And that's cool until you realize, oh, hold on, we're in a van and we're chasing a tour that is in tour buses. Tour buses, generally speaking, have a driver that's their only job. The driver usually does the drives overnight. So the driver sleeps during the day and into the evening. When the show is finished, the band and crew get on the bus. The driver then drives through the night to the next city. That's the way tour bus tours work. So if you're a member of the band or the crew, you never have to even really deal with the drive other than when the bus leaves that night, you've got to be on the bus. We were in a Sprinter van, still completely luxurious by our standards, a nice Sprinter van we were renting with all this rental gear, no complaints whatsoever. However, for them, they said, okay, the drives in Europe are short. They're 2 or 3 hours from one show to the next rather than these mega long North American drives. So they were playing 6, sometimes 7 nights a week. So we're chasing that in a van. We're used to longer drives. And basically it was grueling. It was fun. And it was the kind of thing that you'd wake up and go, oh, now we're in this part of the UK. Now we're in France. Now we're in this part of Germany. And even though that tour, if I'm not mistaken, was over a month long, it felt like it went by like that because most weeks we were playing 6, 7 nights. And it was a hell of a lot of fun. I mean, there were a few nights where their sort of pop punk audiences didn't care for an indie rock band from Canada. And there were other nights where we came across, I think, pretty well. That's the funny thing about opening, which we did so much of, right? We did a ton of touring, and I don't know what percentage, but a not insignificant portion of our touring was opening for other bands. And so you're trying to impress another band's crowd, right? You're trying to impress a crowd that may completely dig what you're throwing down, or they might think that you completely suck. And that wasn't always directly related to how good of a show you were having as a band. There were nights on opening tours, including that one, where, oh man, you're cooking and the band sounding great and we're gelling and everything feels really good on stage. And halfway through the show, you just realize, oh, this audience does not care for us. And vice versa, right? There are nights where you're like, oh man, we're kind of rusty or sloppy or tired tonight or whatever. And the audience is loving it. It was a weird thing to deal with. But that tour was an absolute whirlwind and a real lot of fun. And yes, I am a huge fan of Sum 41. I mean, like in terms of pop punk hooks and in terms of like you were saying, what age I was when those records came out, I'm the perfect target demo for pop punk bands from the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm the target demographic, 100%.